In a time when Israel lived in spiritual confusion, when each person followed their own path and the voice of God seemed distant, a child was born who would change the destiny of a nation. His name was Samuel, prophet, judge, priest, and the final bridge between the age of judges and the era of kings. Samuel's story begins with a woman named Hannah. She lived in deep sorrow, carrying the pain of infertility in a culture where motherhood was seen as honor and purpose. Year after year, Hannah went up to the house of the Lord in Shiloh, praying in silence, her lips moving but no sound coming forth. Her heart poured out before God, and she made a vow: if the Lord granted her a son, she would dedicate him entirely to his service. God heard her prayer. In time, Hannah conceived and gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel, meaning heard by God, true to her vow. Once the child was weaned, Hannah brought him to the tabernacle and presented him to the Lord. From that moment on, Samuel belonged not to a household, but to God himself. The child grew up in the presence of the Lord, serving under Eli the priest. But Israel at that time was spiritually corrupt. Eli's sons abused their priestly authority, defiled sacred offerings, and led the people astray. The word of the Lord had become rare, and visions were uncommon. Then one night, everything changed. As Samuel lay sleeping in the tabernacle, he heard a voice calling his name, thinking it was Eli, Eranto, Im. But Eli had not called. This happened 3 times, until Eli realized the truth. The Lord was calling the boy. He instructed Samuel to respond, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." That night, God revealed a hard truth. Judgment was coming upon Eli's house because of corruption and disobedience. Samuel, though young, carried the weight of divine revelation. From that moment on, the Lord was with him, and none of his words fell to the ground. All Israel recognized Samuel as a true prophet of God. As Samuel matured, he became the spiritual leader of Israel. He called the people to repentance, urging them to abandon idols and return to the Lord with sincere hearts. Under his leadership, Israel experienced renewal, and God granted them victory over the Philistines. Samuel served as judge over Israel for many years, traveling from town to town, administering justice and guiding the people according to God's law. Yet as he grew old, the people grew restless. They demanded a king, desiring to be like the surrounding nations. This request deeply grieved Samuel, but the Lord spoke to him, saying that the people were not rejecting Samuel, they were rejecting God as their king. Eben, say, God instructed Samuel to anoint a king for Israel. The first king was Saul. Samuel anointed Saul in obedience to God's command, warning both king and people that monarchy carried great responsibility and serious consequences. At first, Saul ruled with humility, but over time disobedience and pride took root in his heart. Saul rejected God's commands, and God rejected Saul as king. Once again, Samuel was called to act. God sent him to the house of Jesse in Bethlehem. One by one, Jesse's sons passed before Samuel, strong, tall, impressive men. Yet the Lord rejected them all. Finally, the youngest was called in from the fields, a shepherd named David. When Samuel saw David, the Lord spoke clearly. This was the chosen one. In the presence of Jesse and his sons, Samuel poured oil over David's head. Though still a boy, David was anointed king of Israel. From that day on, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. Samuel's mission was nearly complete, though his heart still carried sorrow for Saul. Samuel had fulfilled his calling. He had guided Israel, spoken God's truth without compromise, and faithfully obeyed the Lord, even when it cost him deeply. In his final years, Samuel gathered the people and reminded them of God's faithfulness throughout their history, from Egypt to the Promised Land, from judges to kings. He warned them to remain faithful, to fear the Lord, and to serve him with all their hearts. After Samuel's death, all Israel mourned him. He was buried in his hometown of Ramah. His legacy, however, lived on. Samuel was more than a prophet. He was a voice of transition, obedience, and divine authority. Through him, God reshaped a nation and prepared the way for Israel's greatest king. Samuel's life reminds us that God listens to sincere prayer, calls the willing heart, and remains faithful even when people fall away. His story echoes across generations as a testimony of obedience, courage, and unwavering faith. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more powerful biblical documentaries. Click now on the next video and continue this incredible journey through the history of faith.